Hello and welcome back to my channel Discovering Dez. My name is Dez and today I am here with a little review slash recommendation slash let me put you on to something that I have found out here in these interwebs, okay? But before we get there, make sure you like this video, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you do at least one of those things. If you already subscribed, like the video. If you already like the video, you better subscribe or you comment. And if you comment, you need to either subscribe or like the video, but do something. Give me some type of engagement. You know how this works. You know how this works, okay? Today we are going to be taking a gander at a podcast. I know a lot of people usually review TV shows, they review movies, all of that, but I came across a podcast recently that I thought was really groundbreaking and just transformative on so many levels. So if you watch Married to Medicine LA, you know that on the show, which is a reality show, based around a lot of minority doctors, which are male and female. There is one cast member named Dr. Imani Walker. She is a general adult psychiatrist. She is a native of New York, and she currently works at her own practice in California right now. Again, she is a part of the Married to Medicine LA franchise. She has her own podcast, and it is called An Imani State of Mind. I've heard her podcast. I think it's been mentioned on the show, but I've heard it mentioned in several places online and all of that. And I never really gave it a try. I don't know why. I like podcasts. And she is heavily focused on mental health awareness, especially in the Black community. But I finally decided to give it a try the other day. I had some time on my hands, so I was like, okay, let me go to Spotify, type in Imani State of Mind, downloaded a couple episodes, and I gave her a listen. And boy, let me tell you, I do not regret that decision at all. I believe it was this week's past episode that focused on anxiety. And it was so refreshing to hear a Black woman speak about her own experiences with anxiety, her experiences with mental health in the professional world, as she is a psychiatrist, and the different things that she's experienced in her own personal life. The episode was really a very general breakdown of anxiety and the different types of anxiety that people can be diagnosed with. If you don't know, I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and that is, simply put, a condition where you have an unreasonable amount of worry regarding everyday circumstances, and again, generalized. So any little thing can trigger that anxiety. And I also have a degree of social anxiety as well, which means I struggle sometimes to interact with people, whether that's face-to-face, even virtually sometimes. Like even doing videos is a big step for me, given my social anxiety. So, back to Imani State of Mind. Again, it was just very refreshing to hear someone who looks like me talk about their daily struggles with anxiety and how it impacts their life, their personal life and their professional life, and how it shows up sometimes and we don't even know what to call it. Imani talked about she always knew as a child that something was different about her, and that was something I can totally empathize with, because I always had this internal feeling that something not that something was off about me, but that something was on a little bit more than it should have. Like my mind, I always have a lot of thoughts going in my mind. So I knew that I didn't feel per se normal. But growing up in the black community, mental health is something that we don't talk about a lot, let alone the mental health of a child. So I didn't know that this was a mental health disorder, which I was dealing with, but I knew something about me and my being was just a little bit off kilter. And that remained true to this very day. Like since I was, again, like I said, since I was a child, all the way up until my adulthood, my anxiety has manifested itself in various different ways. Whether that's me in high school, me in undergrad, and me now being a college graduate and in the professional workforce. I still have different things that I have to tackle that are put in my way because of anxiety. This podcast really came at a special time for me because I am getting ready to go back. As some may know, I'm getting ready to go back to school. I'm a teacher. And I have I'm feeling a lot of nerves. I'm having a lot of uncertainty about this upcoming school year in the midst of a pandemic with coronavirus, all of that happening. And I don't know. I just, it's a lot. It's a lot. And there are days where I just want to just sit. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to think about anything. But you can't do that. You got to make it happen. You got to make stuff happen, whatever it is. That goes back to Dr. Imani's point in the podcast where she talked a little bit about how her anxiety manifested itself as her being a multitasker, where she would be very consumed with completing several tasks simultaneously, and that inevitably stressed her out even more. And then I believe it was her mother who also has a form of anxiety. And from her mother's perspective, her mother felt that her own anxiety made her better because it pushed her to be productive and do certain things. So I'm glad to see how they have those conversations as a family. See how different things can be passed along. She even, Dr. Imani even talked about her son. Her son has not, at least to her knowledge, faced any traumatic events. And anxiety is often triggered by a traumatic event. So she knows that her son may have traits of an anxiety disorder, but it may not manifest itself because he hasn't been faced with any direct trauma. A lot of the trauma that she mentioned in her podcast was centered around her mother and father, and the disintegration of their relationship and how her father practically ghosted the family. And when we bring up ghosting, they talked a lot about Insecure. I personally have not watched Insecure, but I have heard several of my friends talk about it and different things that go on in the series I'm aware of. And they talked a lot about that. So if you're into Insecure, I would definitely suggest you checking out that episode of Imani State of Mind. I believe it's called The Real Deal About Anxiety. Yep, that was it. Another thing that Dr. Imani talked about was medication. In the black community, we definitely have a stigma against mental health, and that's been a lasting thing for generations. And don't even talk about medicine for your mental health. We'll take medicine for your diabetes, your high blood pressure, all that. You take your Aleve for your headaches. But don't take nothing for your mood now. Don't take nothing that's gonna calm your anxiety down. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be labeled as crazy. Oh my people, I hope we're slowly moving past that. Dr. Imani's podcast is even a bigger step of moving us further away from that stigma of mental health. She went on to share that she herself, I don't know if it was recently, but within the past couple of years, she started medicating using the anxiety medicine Prozac to kind of subdue her anxiety and kind of get it under control. Before the onset of the pandemic, around early March, I made the decision to seek further treatment with my anxiety. I've been to therapy. I've done yoga. I've done those things. I've explored those options. But I finally got to the point where I felt I needed more of a medicinal alleviation of my anxiety. So I went to the doctor and we decided that we'd give Prozac a try. I've been on Prozac for, it's August, so about 5 months now. And I will say it has made a great difference in my everyday functioning. I don't get as worked up about going to the store, interacting with people. I still have moments of anxiety, but it's more manageable. And that's one thing that they highlighted in the podcast, was that medicine is not going to be a cure-all for everyone when it comes to mental health issues. Sometimes it just subdues your symptoms. It gives you a little bit more control of yourself. I still have anxious moments. I still get very nauseous. My anxiety is heavily tied to my gut. When I get really worked up, I feel like I'm gonna vomit. I've never thrown up from my anxiety, but it just feels like I'm about to, when I have to immediately just step out, take a break or whatever. Sometimes I even have to lay down. But again, medication gives you that ability to control and be aware of those feelings as they're coming on. For a while, I've wanted to really have an open discussion about my anxiety like this. Even though I'm not telling you a lot of my business, I feel like I've opened up a good bit sitting here right now. I've wanted to talk, like I said, I wanted to talk about this a little bit more, but in my mind, I was going back and forth about it, and I was like, I don't want to put myself out there or have people think about me in a certain way. But I never know who's watching this video or who may need to hear my story to know that they're not alone in this battle. And that was one thing that they touched on also, how so many people, they're scared because they feel like they're in this alone. They feel like they're trapped inside themselves. And your anxiety will tell you that you're alone and that no one else will understand what you're feeling. And people may not exactly know what you're feeling, but it's important to know that you are not alone and that there are millions of people in the world at this point who suffer from anxiety. Anxiety is the most prevalent mental health disorder in the United States, if I'm not wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But you're not alone. You're not alone. There are people out there who are willing to talk to you, willing to help you, willing to just be there. My friends have been a great support system during this time because I'm away from my family. I'm away from my friends too, but we try to keep in contact because they know a little bit more about my anxiety than my family does, just given, again, the stigma that goes along with it. A lot of people who are diagnosed with mental health issues are not always as open to discussing their issues with their family as they are compared to their friends. So even though some of them may see this, hi guys. Yes, I'm so glad that I came across Dr. Imani's podcast, and I actually took the time to listen to it. I even shared it with a friend, and he said he enjoyed it. I will definitely continue to listen to Dr. Imani and see what else she has to give us, because I feel like she has some really good ideas as far as advocacy for mental health, addressing mental health within the Black community, and just being a light. Because a lot of people feel like they're in such a dark place, but you never know who you can come across or what you can come across that might motivate you just to get up and try again, or to just keep pushing. So make sure you go check out Dr. Imani's podcast, and Imani State of Mind. This has been Discovering Des. If you have a story you like to share about your own mental health, about your own experience with anxiety, please make sure you do that. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This might be a continuing conversation. You never know. All right, I hope you all have a blessed weekend. I'm out.